Right, it's time for some eBay Ephemera. I love that word. This is not a transformer. This is, in fact, a Gobot. And those of you of a certain age will recall that Gobots are famous for being nearly Transformers, but not quite. They were, I think it was, they were a Bandai product, if I remember rightly. He says, hoping he gets that right. And I really liked them actually. I didn't have many of them, but their toy forms were really good. And their transformations, as compared to modern day Transformers, are really, really easy. Huzzah! And they fitted in your pocket really easily. I definitely remember taking them into school. And sadly, they just got eclipsed, I think, by the sheer power of Hasbro's advertising oomph when it came to the Transformers. So I'll show you how he transforms. This guy is called Dive. I didn't ever have him, but I just noticed him on an auction, and I thought I'd have a little look because I didn't have any Gobot examples. So 3 guesses what he transforms into, ladies and gentlemen. And you know, it really didn't take terribly long to do, nor does it need a PhD, which I find that I need these days in order to transform modern day Transformers. That may just be me and my age, but there you go. And now he's quite a convincing submarine, and if you didn't know that was a robot in disguise, then you know you would be forgiven for thinking that it was in fact just a submarine toy with little wheels on the bottom to try and make it look as if it can actually move on land, which of course it can't. But there you go. That's Dive, a Gobot. I'll pop him over there. I mean, loose, you see, you know, they don't really cost anything. Now, this little chap, it's rather off colour. Its hood should be whiter than that. And I think the seller did actually say, in fairness to them, that it has been somewhat sat on. I've actually managed to raise its roof up a little bit. This is a Dodge Challenger. And this is one of those nice Matchbox cars. Let's see if I can get a close-up of the underside for you. And I'm actually trying to match this up with one of the catalogues I've got. So I think it's a number 1 Dodge Challenger. So as you can see, it's a Matchbox. It's Lesney products. Now, I've only started noticing this recently. 1975. So this is 47 years old. But Lesney Products must have been the company that was producing Matchbox. I think it's called, I'm not sure if it's Super Fast or it might be a Super Fast one. And in fairness, they are. I mean, even now, at its age, push. It's nice. It's still, you know, its wheels and stuff are still in really good condition. You know, clearly the hoods should be brighter than that. But actually, considering, you know, it wasn't expensive. It's heavy. There's far more metal in that than you'd probably get these days. I think it's fair to say. So yeah, but I mean that takes me right back. That was definitely one of my very, very early childhood toy cars. There's no two ways about it. So that was nice to see again. Now let's get weird. I'll put it further back, actually. She's bigger. What do you think that is? Now, I didn't know this existed. So I was slightly bemused when I saw it, and I thought, I think I know what it is, but I'm not sure it's actually a thing. But when I searched further on eBay, I discovered it was a thing, because there were carded versions of it floating around for more than I was about to pay for this one. This is a battle tank. And it is a battle tank from the Jerry Anderson show, Terrahawks. And it was carried by their main air vehicle, their sort of transport air vehicle called the Battle Hawk. And the Battle Hawk dropped the battle tank. And the battle tank had a shed load of sort of primary cannons at the back here, which are represented. And it also had 2 modified Zeroids. Now, I'm trying to think what they were called. I want to call them Megazoids, but I'm not sure if that's right. give me a second. Right, 1 second later. Tragically, I am absolutely spot on. They are indeed, as you can see, Megazoids. There you go. This is not something I picked up off eBay. I've had this Terrahawks annual forever. The battle tank is a tracked vehicle for conventional ground attack purposes, operated by Megazoid robots, there you go, and transported in the cargo hold of the Battlehawk. And so on and so forth. So yeah, great. I love the technical readouts and stuff in annuals like this, and it's one of the reasons I love annuals full stop actually, is the sheer volume of extra facts that you've got by virtue of purchasing said annual. If you were trying to do your own website, it comes in invaluable when you want to fill in gaps, and you know, if this I would consider this sort of thing as to be canon. If you're unfamiliar, that vehicle there is the Battlehawk. So as you can see, it was sort of vertical takeoff and landing, could drop Zeroids, little ball-shaped robots that you might be familiar with from the series. It's got its own auxiliary craft up here, which is the Terrahawk, one, no plural. But it also had the battle tank, which came out of this sort of area here. So yeah, that was Terrahawks. Anyway, so lots of people get it confused with Starfleet. Nothing to do with Starfleet. Starfleet came out first, and had absolutely nothing to do with Jerry Anderson whatsoever. Now, this little chap is actually therefore bizarrely quite accurate, whilst at the same time looking ugly as sin. And it should in theory be a sort of wind up, let go kind of action to it. And the thing is, there's something rattling around in there which does not bode well for its ability to run. But you can see it's got little wheels in there, but it's not really having any of it when I try and make it go properly. So it's a little bit unfortunate, but it was a bit of a sort of random find. If you wonder what this little orange thing is, if it would stand up, you can see that moves. So basically the Battlehawk would come in and scoop it up using that. I mean, obviously it couldn't possibly do that with this particular version of it, but you know, it's there as a sort of representation of them trying, basically, which is fair enough. I'm sure you could get a carded version if you wanted it, but you'd have to pay substantially more. So for chuckles, I got that one. Staying on the Jerry Anderson theme, I also picked up this. Now, it's rather nice. It's in its, obviously, as you can see, blatantly obviously, it's on its card. This is a relatively young Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons toy, die-cast. It's nice and heavy. This dates from... well, it's definitely not 2068. I'm just looking for when this was produced. And it doesn't seem to want to tell me. And it mentions Fanderson. Yeah, that's interesting. Fanderson in Wakefield. Vivid Imaginations. I could have sworn it had a year on it. I think that is that 1993 in the top left there. It looks like 1993 to me. Yeah, I would say 1993. If I was to guess, I would say that was released at about the time when they were doing that new CGI series of Captain Scarlet. I don't know if you remember that, but I wonder if this is an old school Captain Scarlet toy re-released with a new series in mind. If anyone knows the background to that, I'd be curious. That's one that I may actually try and sell on, given that it's carded. I don't know if it's particularly worth anything, but I mean, that being said, I don't actually... Captain Scarlet sort of passed me by. I never really got into Captain Scarlet. I know what it is. I'm familiar with the principles and you know, and all that sort of good stuff, but never really floated my boat for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. But anyway, might keep it, might not. I'm not sure. Now, this little thing made me smile, and I'd almost forgotten why. But then perhaps I realised when I started looking at it. Now, do you remember this? So just talking about Gobots earlier. Now, obviously, this is not Gobots. This is proper Transformers. The thing that makes me smile about these Ladybird books, and it is a Ladybird book. My thumb may have been obscuring it, but there is the Ladybird. Now, check this out. Just from the back cover, what do you immediately notice? That is Bumblebee. Yes, it is. It's Bumblebee. You may be asking me, or thinking to yourself, why has he got a weird thin head with a metal plate behind it? And the short answer is because that's what his toy looked like when it first came out as a G1 Transformer. Obviously, the other guy is Optimus Prime. His arm has not been horribly deformed by Megatron. Again, that's what his toy looked like. So with none of this swanky, 15 dozen steps to transform it to get it looking rectangular. That's what it looked like because it had to go over the top of his wheel, his tyre. So as you can see, there are a few in this series, and all the depictions of the Transformers in here are of the G1 toys. So Heroic Autobot, Evil Decepticon, and they look like they're toys. Brilliant. So as a way of selling the toys, epic, because see, look, I love that picture of Ravage. Look at that. I loved a bit of Ravage. I mean, he transformed into a cat. It's brilliant. He doesn't even transform into a humanoid. He transformed into a cat. That's pretty cool. So this looks like Bumblebee's actually doing an espionage role because he's spying on Starscream, Soundwave, and Megatron there from the looks of it. Optimus Prime was briefing Bumblebee on a spying mission. There you go. See, good guess. Find out all you can. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. I'll just flick through quickly to see what else we've got in here. Yep. So there's Soundwave. Soundwave was, I remember Soundwave's toy. I had Soundwave's toy. It was a really good toy. I love Soundwave. Quite good articulation on it as well. Oh look, it's Bumblebee taking fire and legging it. There you go. See, good old-fashioned Volkswagen Beetle Bumblebee, as of course you do see in the Bay Universe films very briefly before he upgrades himself. Okay, so Ravage is actually a Mogwai because he doesn't like bright light. Excellent. So lots of Ravagey bits. Ravage trying to hunt down Bumblebee. Not managing to make it apparently. And again, classic sort of toy reproduction. Now is that oh no, Trail, yeah, that's Trailbreaker, yeah. I was going to say Hoist for some reason, but Hoist is greener, isn't he? But that's Trailbreaker, and that was what his toy would have looked like. So I mean, they keep it completely as the toys were, probably because Ladybird were perhaps told to do that. I don't know. There's Hound. So again, Hound looking as he should do if he were a toy, and that's Trailbreaker going into car mode. I quite like the way they've shown that actually. The slightly sort of see-through version of the robots, and then solid cars. And there's Iron. It's Cast of Thousands in here. That's Ironhide there, being used to transport shopping apparently. Excellent. And we've got a bit of there's Jazz looking quite serious. So we're getting through quite a few of them here. Still Jazz. I haven't actually read it, so I don't know what exactly is going on here. No idea if it's technically canon or not. It probably isn't. Jazz, more Jazz. Still more Jazz. Is that I'm not quite sure who that guy is on the right. That looks a bit like Frenzy or Rumble to me. I can't see if it mentions who that is just there. But if I were to guess, I would say it was one of them. Yeah, so that's yes, that was the Transformers Autobots Fight Back. But I mean, I used to see that in doctors' waiting rooms and stuff, all over the place. I mean, they must have sold God knows how many of those over the time when the G1 toys were first out. But that's what I was saying about Hasbro's licensing. You see, Hasbro were really smart like that. So you saw Transformers in bits and bobs everywhere. And speaking of Transformers, he says, seamlessly segueing into another find, Drift. Now, I am not massively up on my Dreamwave sort of IDW era of Transformers comics. I am more a G1 Marvel kind of guy when it comes to Transformers comics, but I had heard of him because I have had sight of the odd character on the interwebs, obviously, and in fact I definitely seem to remember, maybe I've even looked at this book in a store before now, I don't know, but this collects his Spotlight issue and a sort of mini-series issue as well, and it's beautifully drawn. I'm just trying to find a good sort of example page for you. But it goes through sort of Drift's backstory and basically his sort of change in, not persona necessarily, but he does grow as an individual over time, basically, it's fair to say. I think that's a sort of example. This is quite an interesting book as well because it's got various sort of protagonists in it. It's not just Autobots and Decepticons, also some slave traders in there as well. So it's an interesting mix because you see sort of Cybertronians up against other races, which is relatively unusual. Generally speaking, in my experience, they sort of, it would always be sort of robot on robots type action, but this is a little bit wider than that, which is quite interesting to see. And in fact, it also introduces, well, I won't go into spoilers, but let's just say that it's more, it has more depth to it than you might expect, put it that way, if you use the sort of Generation 1 stuff. So I was quite impressed by that, and that was not expensive for a hardback graphic novel, which again I was quite interested in, because you don't see many hardback graphic novels. I certainly don't have many in my collection. Although, wait for the segue again, I used to have lots of hardbacks. Now, these are some of the other things that I've picked up from the same eBay seller on a whim, and also because it made the postage cheaper, of course, per item. But this is a Space 1999 annual that I do not have, because annuals were hardback. So that's why there are so many of them still around, because this will be ancient as well, undoubtedly. And I haven't actually opened this one up yet, so I don't even know what's in here. But obviously, dodgy sort of black and white screenshots. But that is a classic situation for an eagle. Crashed. It's almost their natural state of being is crashed. When you see an eagle flying around, you know it's going to be crashed before much longer. But wow, this is an old book. It smells. I don't mind that sort of smell sometimes, but this one was quite powerful, and I wasn't expecting it until I opened it. Yeah, we've got someone's completed the Spot the Difference. Come on, that's a bit unfair, isn't it? They shouldn't have done that. They should have waited for me. But we've got the classic sort of comic strips that you got in this sort of scenario. Quite poor representations of eagles in them. Yeah, look at that. And that's just nasty. You get the impression that was not done by a massively well-known artiste. But you see, this is the thing you have to love about Space 1999, just the sheer quality of the... Look at all the greebling on that. Just those classic ships. In fact, that looks like a... Is that a... And what is that? It looks like a hawk. Have they pinched... I wonder if they actually got... They're actually allowed to use a hawk from the series to take new photos. Interesting. Now that's just silly. Okay, now they're just starting to annoy me. From a nerdist geek point of view, Commander Koenig's eagle lifted slowly away from Moonbase Alpha. That's not an eagle, that's a hawk. Honestly. You just can't get the staff some days. Yeah, I think they just sort of... They've just taken almost like random screenshots from different episodes to try and match them up with the text that they've used. I'm just having a quick flick through to see if there's anything else to show you really. There's a slightly more convincing eagle picture. That isn't. Someone has also completed the crossword, which is, again is very inconsiderate of them. Yeah, I mean there are various. I mean, you know, there's a few. You know, there's various sort of pictures and stuff in there, but you could get better captures these days from digital material. But it's just one. You know, it's for my collection basically. So I've probably got all of the Space 1919 annuals that ever were now. Now this is from a toy line that I did not get into. I was very well aware of it because obviously the cartoon was very prevalent and it was a very popular toy line. Mask, Mobile Armoured Strike Command. You see, I knew that without looking at the annual. Yeah. So if you're unfamiliar, basically vehicle has two modes. One's normal, one's combat. The characters had masks that could do various things. This one apparently belonged to John Christie. So John Christie, if you're out there, I've got your annual. Sorry. So comics, and yeah. So things like the Spectrum mask, which will allow you to sort of see different things and analyze their components and so on. Slightly better artwork on this one actually, but it probably is a much later annual in fairness to the Space 1999 annual. So in terms of year, I haven't actually got to a contents page, assuming it's still here. It's actually coming away from the spine a bit, so maybe the contents page has dropped out. I knew that the condition of these was going to be arguably dubious. Do you know what? I've just remembered what I associate masks most with, and it was a time when I went abroad for on a holiday with a friend, because I remember he did have some of the toys which I played with when I was over there with him. And it had a toy called Thunderhawk. Hawks were all the rage clearly back then, in the mid '80s. Oh wow! Somebody hasn't copied the drawing onto the squares below, so I could still do that one. There you go. I'm not going to. I do have slightly better things to do. Honest. Yeah, but it's it's obviously a reasonable capture. That, I mean, I've definitely not got a brilliant. That's not a brilliant example of it. I don't think it's a little bit dirty, and I think it's probably lost some pages. Oh, it was 1986. That one. I'm just going to see if I can find the Space 1999 year actually. As a matter of interest, just to see just how old this is. No, it was £1.25. The Space 1999 annual. Oh, do you have to done the copyright in Roman numerals? 76. Yeah, 76. Okay. Wow. Okay, 1976. Well, it would be that battered by then. And now, and yet another toy line that I did not indulge in, but I have seen it in the Leicester old toy shop. Brave Star Toys, as it says on the tin, annual 1988. And I remember the TV show very well. Eyes of the Hawk, Strength of the Bear, Speed of the Puma. I'm missing one there, aren't I? Somebody will fill in the blank, or you can have a look at my ancient video captured intro, also on this channel. And the Talking Horse 3030, you may remember, who could transform and wield a rather impressive cannon. So apparently you had Brave Star, Deputy Fuzz, Dingo Man, Fort Kirium, Handlebar, Judge JB, Prairie Person, Neutra Laser, Outlaw Scuzz, Sandstorm, Sarah Jane, Skull Walker, Stratacoach, Tex Hex, 3030, Thunderstick, Turbo Mule, Viper. And that was them making sure that you're very clear on what all their characters are and that their copyrights and trademarks and all that good stuff. Confusingly, it says published in 1987 on the inside cover. So it would appear that the front cover was a great big fibber because it actually says 1987 there. But anyway, okay. Annuals did tend to do that. They were quite confusing because they would they tend to publish them around. This is maybe a very British thing. They publish them sort of around Christmas in the year before the annuals are for. Does that make sense? So if the annual's for 1985, they'll publish it in 1984 Christmas. it's a strange sort of logic, I know, but that is how it works. Okay, here we go. Eyes of the hawk, strength of the bear, ears of the wolf, speed of the puma. Ears was the one I was missing. I couldn't quite remember which ears he had, but yeah, he's got ears of the wolf. There you go. Okay. No self-respecting Brave Star fan would not know that. And there's well, nice image. They're good pictures actually. Yeah, those are actually pretty good pictures. Fair use to them. That was the 3030 is the horse guy with the enormous blaster, basically. So basically, the idea is that they are mining for this valuable mineral on this planet, and outlaws arrive to try and rob the mineral, and Bravestar has to stop them, basically. That is the basic idea of the show. And Bravestar is the marshal who is dispatched from Earth to try and sort stuff out. So we've got some actual comic strips in there as well, not just text stories. I can't say I've ever seen. I'm not even sure if I've ever seen a Bravestar annual before. That's why I thought I'd grab it, because I've just never seen one. And I do have a reasonable collection of annuals, which, me being me, I just never threw out, and I always looked after. So at some point I might just do a full rundown of all the annuals I still have, and ones like this that I'm picking up since, just to sort of fill in the gaps. Had I been getting the toys, I definitely would have picked this up, and that was kind of what they were going for, because it might encourage you to buy even more toys, to act out the stories in the annual. I could certainly see kids doing that. So here ends one of my eBay ephemera videos, it would seem, because I've just run out of stuff to show you. I'm sure that more will be on the way, and I've definitely got a dinky space battlecruiser to show you, and I thought it might be a good wheeze actually to tie up some of these with some of the catalogues that I've got, so you can see the actual kind of real toy against the image of it in the catalogue, so you can see what the crack was. Because in the dinky catalogues, often the images were more sort of drawings of the toy rather than pictures of the toy. I guess that was probably cheaper in terms of reproduction and so on. But I'll have a think about how best to do that down the line. But hope you've enjoyed that utterly random trip down memory lane. If you did have any of these things before now, and I will see you for another one in due course. Cheers for now.